So this is it, people. My £100 million release clause has been met by Arsenal and they agreed to sign me. Now, all I need to find out is, have I passed the medical? How'd I do, Doc?
It's not great news. I think it was the 15-year contract you were asking for. I think your knees will hold up, but you failed on life expectancy.
Hi and welcome along to AFTV. We are here with Dr. André from Oxford Natural. As I always say at the start of these videos, love the products, the Optimum Day, the Optimum Night. Great products that, well, tell us about.
Yeah, again, it's a metabolism. We hear the word. What does it mean? It's how your body takes energy from the outside and turns it into energy for life. And this gets complicated over time because we don't eat so well, don't sleep so well. It's a stress world. We've designed these to balance metabolism, to give you gentle energy all day, so you need less reliance on things that give you major stimulation. We control blood sugar, we control fat burn, muscle build, and also mood. And then at night time, we add in something which helps you gently go off to sleep. So you get this stable day and then a refreshing night. And as the weeks and the months go by, you just feel vastly better because internally you are repairing and more efficient. And this then shows as benefits in terms of mood, appetite, sleep, and just general function. So simple thing to do, 3 capsules morning, 3 capsules nighttime, away you go. And 3-4 months later, we're seeing massive benefits. Yeah,
and I can vouch for that. I've been taking them now for 9 months.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And I've definitely seen a big difference, especially my energy levels.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a great product, really is a great product. I'm here today because I want to talk to you about our star boy, Bukayo Saka, who unfortunately at the moment is injured. Now, every Arsenal fan is trying to work out when Bukayo Saka may come back. He got injured in the game against Crystal Palace, which we won 5-1. Had to come off in that game with a hamstring injury. Turned out that hamstring injury was quite a bad one, and he had to have surgery on it. And now, some of the rumours said he could be back March. I've heard other rumours that say he could be out for the season. I mean, I'm really anxious to try and find out because he's our best player. We've missed him since he's been out. To try and find out when he might possibly, I know you're not going to be able to tell us definitively when he'll be back because you've not been the person that's done the surgery and done the medical, but I'm trying to get an idea when he could be back. And also I want to try to get an idea of this injury because surgery on a hamstring doesn't sound good to me.
Yeah.
Why would you have surgery on a hamstring?
Yeah, generally, you wouldn't. In the population, you ask people, anyone here had hamstring surgery, very few hands will go up in the air. So we know it must be a particular type of injury for surgery to be the first port of call. Because normally a hamstring tear, you think it's somewhere between the origin and the insertion of the muscle. It's somewhere in the middle. Okay, so a tear there, glue together, give it time, it heals. Surgery is when you can't be sure that the injury is stable. Okay, it can't be left. And we don't know the exact details of this case, but I know in previous issues where the hamstring has an origin. So it inserts into the bone of the pelvis, and then it goes into the back of the knee, into the shin bone and the smaller bone, the fibula. So if the hamstring pulls off at the insertion where the bone is, an avulsion, or a complete tear in that area, you can't rely that it will just go up and stick on again. You have to put it there and nail it there. And so my first thought about anyone who needs surgery so soon after their first injury is it's not a stable injury, and that origin must be wandering around and you want to then put it back where it needs to be. Hence, an operation is necessary. So in those cases, surgery is always months, not weeks. Yeah. So soft tissue injuries, ligament, muscle tear, you think in terms of weeks. When the knife's out, you're thinking much more in terms of months. And I think that was mooted originally that it would be, a minimum of 2 months, which you normally say when you don't know what it is. So a minimum of 2 months gives you, there's less attention on the injury when you say that. But probably a surgery of that kind is nearer toward the 4 to 6 month mark for recovery. Obviously, this is not saying that that's what it is.
Yeah.
But if I was reporting back to management about that level of surgery on a hamstring, we make people aware that that is what we must consider as being perfectly reasonable. Okay, that it could be that length of time, because the club has to make decisions based on best information. If they know that that's a possibility, they can then buy and transfer whatever with that in mind. No one wants the opposite. I mean, you can't in this business be too optimistic, because that's the worst kind of wrong. Okay, if you said I know he's back in 10 weeks, or you can fire me. Well, just leave the club on that day, because it's never going to work out for you that way. In the short term, you might get lucky once or twice, but you're better to err on the side of caution, both in the way that you describe the injury and the recovery, and in your rehab of the player, because this guy is like gold. We said before about hamstring injuries are complex because the muscle crosses 2 joints. It crosses the hip and the knee. So it's a knee rehab and a hip rehab, a hamstring repair. And that's clearly going to be more complex, and you'll be more subtle with this. Plus, it's the most explosive muscle, isn't it? That's what makes you blast. And therefore, it's got to be absolutely right before you come back, because you simply cannot sprint and be explosive until it's properly rehabbed and properly healed.
Which obviously sprinting and explosiveness is a big part of his game.
That's right.
And so I'm working it out now. So he got injured right at the end of December. I think he did that. He did that surgery just before the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So if it's 4 months, right? That brings him back sometime April.
Yeah.
We've heard that he could be back by the end of March, but you're seeming to suggest that'd be more April if things have gone well. If it's 6 months, he could be out for the whole season, because the season finishes in May.
Yeah.
And it really wouldn't make any sense because you can't, I guess with something like that, how you're describing that, rushing that back.
No, there's no need. There is no need. Even though we want to do the best for this year, of course you would do. He's just too valuable to play. He's a generational player. He's like a 10-year player, isn't he? So there's no, there's just no one gives out prizes when someone breaks down again and then is out for another season or whatever. And so we don't know the ins and outs of it, but I'm saying this is where you have to put your. You've got to understand that those things are perfectly possible. That duration of recovery is completely possible. In other sports, look at other sports. If it was American football, then that sort of injury, surgery, you wouldn't really expect to see them again for that season, which is shorter. But I think given that it's getting towards the second half of the season now, you have to bear that in mind, that we may not see him again. That would be.
Is it possible that him as a young, still a young guy, 23, could that injury recover quicker?
Well, young people recover quicker, hence that's just the nature of the world. They have higher metabolic rates, more mitochondria. It's much more aggressive heal when you are in your early 20s compared to when you're in your late 30s or something. So, of course, it could be a great healer, just full stop. And he might seem quicker for that reason, but you don't factor that in really. You just know that tissues universe need a certain amount of time. The more severe the injury, the longer the rehab, and the more valuable the player, the more certain you have to be.
Yeah, I'm interested in rehab, right? So when he is starting to get towards, it's healed more or less, what's the rehab like? Because I guess he's not going to be able to just come back, hit the ground running, especially when you're talking about explosiveness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's going to have to be eased in, isn't he? He's going to, what would that look like when he comes back?
Generally, the injury has to obey a certain order of rehab, which is movement, strength, function. Okay, always. Okay, so movement is after inactivity and post-surgery, you're stiff. Okay, and obviously there's a new architecture if they've done surgery, so there will be some tightness that's completely new to him. So we have to establish mobility first. So it's very, very gentle, passive mobilizing, as in stretching him without him doing it, and active mobilizing, him doing it. So only when the joint, the knee and the hip are fully mobile can you then introduce significant load. And that is the strengthening part of recovery. So movement first. Until movement's right, you don't bring in the strength side of things. Then it's strength rehabilitation. When he's achieving levels of strength that he had previously, then you enter the functional phase. So full mobility, normal strength, then it's side to side, forward, back and forth, blasting, sprinting, it's in that order. So you have to be kind. It's not like, oh, operation's done, bandages off, lie down, okay, let's run. It's got to obey those rules. And when things go wrong, it's when you don't obey those rules. When you have not got full movement and you go, okay, but let's just give him some weight, then it might go wrong. He hasn't got the strength back yet. Okay, but see if he can play. That's when things fall apart. So movement, strength, function, that is the normal route of rehab.
Right, so where would he be at now in your thinking? You know, he had that surgery right at the end of the year of 2024. Obviously, we've just come into January. What would there'll be nothing, he'll just be walking around, right? I guess.
Yeah, I think a patient who's had a type of surgery of that kind on the hamstring now is into the movement strengthening cusp, okay, where you are hopefully getting mobility, getting close to normal, and starting with light load. So he's at that level here. And these zones are not demarcated by that's always 4 weeks, that's always 6 weeks. It's very much individual dependent on that. Remember, when we say how long it takes for an injury to get better, that is always just based on the industry average. Okay, we just know that 1,000 of these injuries, 90% got better after this long. That's when we use that term, 6 months or whatever. Everyone's different, everyone's individual. You get complications from infection, wound healing. There's all lots of things that can happen. It's not a pure operation and then you get better on that route. There's lots of pitfalls possible in the meantime, which you never expect. So if all's going well and there's been no complications, then he's in that sort of movement strength phase. How long that goes on for, very much down to the individual.
Yeah. It's very depressing. It's like, I want the guy back next week. Like, obviously, that is not going to happen, and it is going to have to run its course, I guess. I mean, surgeries on hamstrings are not common things, are they? Most people, most players do their hamstring rehabilitation back. What would have caused that to happen? Is that just bad luck, or could that have been the amount of games he's played? Because a lot of fans have said, well, he had played nearly every game for Arsenal last season. Then straight after that, he went and played at the Euros. Couple of weeks rest, because remember, England got all the way to the finals, and then he's back playing for Arsenal again. You know what I mean? And England as well. His first injury that he picked up was on international duty when he picked up that sort of ankle injury or leg injury that he picked up. Is it the amount of games that he's been playing that you feel has led to this, or is he just a bit unlucky? Yeah,
I think, honestly, we just don't know. It is so individual. Okay, if it was 100 players doing exactly what he'd done, and we had that data to say, well, in these 100, this has always happened, then you can be confident and say, well, that's clearly a problem of excessive games. In the individual, you're blind. It can just be the resonance one day, just the timing. A certain movement on a certain day, from a certain angle, at a joint or muscle in a certain time of its life is enough to do it. And he may never ever do it again. He may play more games and it doesn't happen. It's not quite so predictable. So it's unfair for when people have sort of said to the, directed at the manager and the team there and said to them, listen, you've been flogging this guy, he's played too many games. You feel that's probably unfair because it's down to the individual. Yeah, I think if he had a repetitive stress injury, like a stress fracture or shin splint, something that was an overuse issue, then you have some grounds for doing that. But this thing is much more an explosive issue. It's just like bang, you know. And if we're looking for good news, I suppose it's possible that if you can heal healthy tissue onto healthy tissue, which is what surgery is designed to do, take away damaged things and put healthy to healthy. Well, that's good news, isn't it? Because there's two healthy things in contact with each other. My concern might be someone with a recurring tear somewhere, which heals with scar tissue, which is not as good as muscle, and that's in there. So in some ways, the worse injury sometimes has a better outcome long term, because you can definitively put healthy tissue onto healthy tissue, which is different from other tears, whereby you basically have a lump of scar tissue in a healthy tissue, which is just a vulnerability waiting to be exposed in the future. So if we're looking for optimism in the new year, you know, with an operation, healthy on healthy, which I think is possibly better.
Which, you know, you've answered the question I was going to ask, because I was going to say, can this like be a long-term problem, you know, when you've had a surgery?
Yeah. But
you're saying it could actually repair better or make it stronger for the future.
Yeah, I mean,
as long as you don't do the one. I think you did the one in his right leg. You don't want to do the other one.
Yeah, it's again we're into the realms of the real unknown in that sense. But what we're saying is, there's always cause for optimism, because there's some benefits to surgery, because that issue can't really happen again in the same way, because those bits aren't there anymore. They've gone. They've been replaced by other things. So yeah, I think that's one reason for optimism in that sense. But there's lots of players have one injury, and we never see that injury again. It comes and it goes that way, and that's probably more likely than it happens again and again and again. So young kids, good recovery, you know, sensible, respectful rehab, you know, patient management, patient fans. Okay, better outcome.
Patient fans. Good luck with that one.
I've heard of them.
I've never heard of any. Right. The last patient fan I knew, man, is probably about 90 years old now. And you know what I mean? The fans now are not patient. But listen, it's an absolute pleasure again. Thank you very much for giving us yet another insight into these injuries. And once again, tell us about the Optimum Day and Night. Yeah,
sure. Again, we're looking to be our best for the next year. Okay, we want to be as healthy, sleeping well, you know, doing all the things we want to do. This is a great way to support that goal, is to balance metabolism with these marvelous products designed by top life scientists to help you eat, sleep well, achieve your goals, easily done. And I'd recommend everyone to get into it as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. And if you're interested, there's a link in the description, and scan the QR code on the screen where you can get these products. Once again, Dr. André, thank you very, very much for giving us a big insight. And let's hope that Saka can get well soon. Like Dr. André said, maybe come back stronger and even better. But in the meantime, we need to buy some players.